Okay, so let's take a look at homework number 4, question number 10. This is going to be a little bit tricky to see here, but it's going to make more sense to you if you're kind of looking along on your computer screen or you know what you're looking at here. I'll kind of highlight the things that you can't see. So they say to sketch the graph of the following function, and the function that they give us is 1 over x minus 1. So f of x equals 1 over x minus 1. Okay, so what that tells me is that I'm looking for a graph that is going to have something happening at a specific point. And that point is the point where the function doesn't make sense, where it's not defined. And we've seen before with rational functions that if the denominator equals 0, we're going to run into trouble. So in this case, the denominator is going to equal 0 if x equals 1. Because if x equals 1, we have 1 minus 1 equals 0, which is going to cause problems. So if I look at my graphs, and you're going to have one that looks something like this here, does this have any kind of problems at x equals 0 or x equals 1? I'm looking around x equals 1. Nope, I don't see any holes. I don't see any jumps. Nothing's happening at x equals 1. So let's take a look at this guy here. X equals 1. No, it does have kind of a jump thing happening here where it doesn't seem to be defined, but that's at 0. So this one doesn't have any problems at 1. It can't be that one. This one here looks like it's got a problem, but its problem is at -1. So that's not it. That leaves us this one up here, and again, your graphs may be in a different order, but this one here, the problem where we have something going on where the graph is not continuous, is this one is happening at 1, which is where it should happen. So if they give you a function like 1 over x minus 10, you're going to look for the graph that you have, that they've given you, that's not continuous at the point 10, because 10 would cause you problems. If you had 1 over x plus 5, that means -5 would be your problem. So you'd look for something that didn't make sense at -5 in your graph. And there's only going to be one graph that's going to match up with your function and have a problem at that specific point. So in this case, mine was 1, and I found that there. Now we need to figure out what the reason is, or what's true about that graph at that point. So this might be a little bit hard to see, but I'm going to talk you through it as best I can. The first choice that they gave me, which will probably be different from the first choice they gave you, is the function is not defined at the point x equals 1. Well, that's true. We know that if we have 1 over 1 minus 1, that equals 1 minus 0, well, that's undefined. So the function is not defined at the point x equals 1. So that's actually a correct choice. I'll put a check mark here, and I'll write not defined, because that's basically what that statement is saying. It says the function is discontinuous at the point x equals 1. Well, we can do our little finger test to see if it's discontinuous. You start on the left side and see if you can trace all the way to the right side without picking up your finger. Well, that doesn't happen. I actually have to pick up my finger at x equals 1 and move it. So it is discontinuous. It says discontinuous here. So check discontinuous at that point. So at x equals 1. Okay, so that's true. Now they're asking, or they're saying the tangent line is vertical at the point x equals 1. We don't even have a point at x equals 1, so we can't draw a tangent line at x equals 1. So that can't be it. So I'll put an x here. The tangent line is vertical. That's wrong for a couple of different reasons, but most importantly, we don't even have a point to draw a tangent line to the graph there. So that's not correct. The choice tangent line is not correct. The derivative is 0 at the point x equals 1. Well, that's not correct either, because we know that the derivative is the same thing as the slope of the tangent line. And we just said you can't even draw a tangent line there. You can't put a tangent line at a place you don't have a point, so you can't find a derivative at that point. So that one is also not correct, that the derivative equals 0. Just not true. it can't. There's no point that you could draw a tangent line to that line at x equals 1. So that's not true. And our last choice is the function does not have a derivative at x equals 1. That is true because we couldn't find a line or a point to draw a line at. Oops, I just made that wrong. So check, no derivative. Function does not have a derivative. That is correct. We couldn't find a point to draw the derivative at, so that is correct. So out of your 5 choices, 3 of them will be correct. The choice that it's not defined, because it really isn't defined. 1 over 0 is not defined. There's no point there on the graph. Discontinuous at x equals 1. It's discontinuous because we had to pick up our finger at x equals 1. And the other correct choice is that there's no derivative. If we don't have a point on the graph, we can't draw a tangent line there. So there is no derivative. And those are the correct choices and the reasons that they're correct for question number 10 on homework 4.